You know what's really expensive? Poverty. Each year, the cohort of children, of infants who are born into poverty will end up costing society over $1 trillion over their lifetime. Poverty is expensive, and so as society, we should be looking for ways to address that. You know what else is expensive? Money itself. We paid last year in the United States more than $1 trillion in interest on the national debt, or about $10 for every man, woman, and child, every citizen of the United States, every single day. So for your family of four, $40 was spent on your behalf just to pay interest on the national debt every single day. I mean, couldn't your family use an extra $40 a month? And part of the reason that this happens is because we're doing money backwards. We're creating it as debt so that we will be stuck, so that interest has to be paid on it. You know, the first candidate I ever voted for president was Ross Perot, who campaigned on balancing the budget because we had a $4 trillion deficit. That was more than 30 years ago, and now the deficit is 9 times that. Where did those $30 trillion come from over the last 30 years? Was there some sort of super trillionaire out there just waiting to loan it to the United States? No, it's all made up. It's all made up. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. As our economy grows, as our population grows, we need more money in circulation. There have been economic struggles in the past when the United States was on the gold standard and was unable to keep up with the growing economy, which is why the populists at the end of the 19th century advocated for getting off the gold standard and introducing silver. That was their free silver plank. Populists, as I will talk about in the next speech, are political innovators, economic reformers who offer solutions. We're doing money backwards. We're going to pay interest forever on the national debt. And it's not just the national debt. Households have another $18 trillion in debt. Your families paid more than $100 billion in credit card interest alone last year. And again, to be clear, this debt is never supposed to be paid back. We can't suck $36 trillion out of the economy through taxes to pay off the national debt. That would crush it. That money has to remain in circulation. But unless we address the way that money is created, interest will always be skimming the cream off the top of societies. The reason is because the way that we're creating money now, we're creating it as debt. As people borrow money, as corporations borrow money, the banks create those dollars out of thin air. As you can probably guess, the people who do the most borrowing are the people who already have the most money. And so they are the ones who benefit from getting the new money first. All the benefits accrue to the people at the top of the economic ladder. And the people at the bottom of the ladder, if the money trickles down to them at all, its spending power has already been diluted by inflation. So if we're going to fix our monetary system, we need to introduce, the way to fix our monetary system is to introduce the money at the bottom to create a trickle-up economy and to create it debt-free without interest, so that there is no expectation that this money will ever be paid back, to not pretend that it's been borrowed, but just to acknowledge that we're adding money to the economy intentionally. And so when we have this intention, how does this intention relate to the core values of our society? Now, in my previous speech, I proposed that consent should be the moral core of our society, the ability to demonstrate free will, the ability to exercise meaningful choice. And I said that the way that many of our choices are limited, many of people's choices are limited because of economic reasons. That people might perhaps prefer to buy organic groceries, organic fruits and vegetables, or the cage-free cruelty-free eggs and things like that. But because the prices are higher, they're forced to spend their money on less healthy foods. So the way to solve this is through unconditional basic income, creating that money putting that money into the system at the bottom by distributing it to all citizens, and so that everyone gets an equal share. Nobody gets an advantage by getting new money first, and that money will work its way through the economy. In 1896, the populists also nominated the William Jennings Bryan as their presidential candidate after his famous Cross of Gold speech, where he adopted the populists' demand for free silver. And in that speech, Bryan said, if you legislate to make the masses prosperous, their prosperity will trickle up to all the classes which rest upon them. UBI will let us create a trickle-up economy. Imagine a system where every citizen was given enough money to meet their basic needs, guaranteed without strings, and that anything people earned on top of that would improve their lives. So it would create an incentive for people to work and try and improve themselves. Now, funding that sort of system is in excess of the amount of new money that we need to add to the economy in a given year. The economist Milton Friedman suggested adding like 5% to the money supply each year, a steady state of growth. So a universal basic income, a UBI, that would ensure everyone is above the poverty level, where they will be better able to exercise meaningful choice in their life, knowing that they can never be threatened with poverty. A UBI at that level would cost the United States around $5.5 trillion. And so half of that money should be clawed back through taxes. And so those taxes can address other societal problems, things like pollution, things like wealth inequality. Taxes that would otherwise be regressive become progressive when they are combined with UBI. UBI is sort of a pre-fund on whatever your tax burden is. We can imagine that there's not just poverty in the United States, there's poverty around the globe. And so if our core moral value is to empower as many members of humanity as possible, a global UBI system would need to be implemented. Now, some country is going to have to take the lead on that, and the United States is the best candidate to do so, starting with citizens of our own country. And the U.S. Treasury has the constitutional authority under Article 1, Section 8, to issue money, and that can be issued out as UBI where the Treasury would set up a public payment infrastructure so that people would be able to send money without any transaction fees. Right now, bank fees add 1% to 2% to the cost of all goods and services in the economy. So if we're worried about inflation, know that we can reduce the prices of everything by at least 1% if we can eliminate bank fees. And we can. Moving money these days in an interconnected 21st century digital world, it's all just a big giant spreadsheet. There's really no reason that certain corporations, certain individuals and institutions should be reaping in over $1 trillion in interest for managing a spreadsheet. So the populists there's a populist proposal that would implement this system, and I'll talk more about it in another speech.